Welcome parents to Hamilton High School's Parent Presentation Series. We started these parent presentations about 4 years ago because we saw there was a need to provide some support services to parents in our community and within our school. These parent presentations provide a wide range of topics. We have expert speakers that talk about social media, communication, mental health issues, all the areas that teens are going through, and to educate parents on what they can do, resources they can obtain, and just support services. We also have a student educational series at the same time in the evening, so you can bring your child with you and they will go to a separate classroom and they will get education on the same topic. Most teachers give extra credit, but your child will always get 2 volunteer hours for every session they attend. And at Hamilton, we also have support groups that the social workers run. We have support groups for anxiety, depression, and self-harm. We have groups for grief, substance abuse, anger management, and we also provide one-on-one support to students, as well as meet with parents if there's issues you might be struggling with and need some professional guidance. You can come and meet with us. And so at Hamilton, we provide a great deal of services. Please contact us if you need any additional support, or we can sit down and talk about ways that we can help you and your child be successful during these high school years. Thank you so much for coming to our presentations, and these presentations, as you can see, are videotaped and will be available 2 weeks after every presentation, along with the PowerPoint and any other materials. We will have them on our website. So thank you and have a great day.
So hi, I'm Dr. Chelsea. If you guys ever see the hot pink minivan, that's me. It's got a hot pink butt and then it fades into white. I live very close, so I'm always in the area of Hamilton. I'm always driving by it every single day. My specialty is sex therapy. That's my super specialty, as well as pain management. I used to specialize in emotionally disabled kids, so this is a great topic for me and a great field with the high school kids, because, you know, sex, kids, it does come together, and as teenagers that's really rough, and having teenagers, you know, figuring out how to talk to them and what's age appropriate, what's appropriate for a parent to talk to them about. But let's start with sexting. So sexting, when we think about it, we think about somewhat of the old school stuff of just texting and just like doing stuff that's sort of titillating and talking about, you know, hey, I'd like to see you this way, or I'd like to do this, or hey, let's hook up, or something like that. But now it's all about pictures, right? That's really where it's at, is pictures. And we all know Snapchat and different things that are supposed to only last 24 hours, supposed to be secret. You're supposed to be able to use special apps that are private. Of course, I think there's a difference between privacy and secrecy, and the difference is, you know, it's okay for your kid to have privacy to change clothes, and privacy to talk to a friend when they don't feel good, and things like that. Secrecy is when they're hiding things that could hurt them, right? And when they're hiding things that they're being shady about. And, you know, it's not okay to hide yourself. Even if it's not something that's really all that important. If you only share with the world, let's say you're really shy and you only share this much of yourself, you know, 20, 30%, the rest of you that you don't share, you can't feel that anybody accepts you or loves you for that. So a kid who isolates and doesn't share isn't going to feel fully loved. So connecting with your kids and communicating, like this whole series is about, is very important. But that's why they find other ways to communicate, and they find different people to communicate with. And just like, I don't know if you guys have heard, but the great research I love is all about soccer games. So the fans of soccer games go, and they often dress up in different colors, and they're all about their team. And it got to the point where soccer games were very violent because being anonymous, and they were just a part of the crowd, and nobody knows who that one person is. Well, the internet now makes everybody anonymous all the time, right? They can be whoever they want to be. They can put on a different name, a different screen name. They can change it up, and nobody knows. You know, they don't know if they're talking to somebody who is who knows what. For all they know, they could be talking to you, right? And there's all these different apps that can hide stuff from you. I personally cannot keep up with it. I was trying to for my clients and for parents to be like, okay, let's see what I can do. And I have a guy upstairs from my office, and that's his skill set. He data recovers all the stuff off of your phone, off your computers. And I'm like, hey, can you just keep me up to date on like what apps people are using? Because I also get a lot of couples where there's cheating and there's stuff being done that's hidden, whether it's financial or emotional, affairs, things like that. And he's like, I can't. I mean, I can give you an idea of some of the ones out there, but there's always new ones. There's always stuff I don't know about. There's always new ways to hack it. I work at Price and Queen Creek, and I call that Tech Row. I mean, there are so many engineers right there. My husband designs cell phones. He takes my phone, and everyone says, oh, well, what phone do you have? I'm like, okay, it used to be this when we bought it, but the first thing he does is crack it open, solder on it, reprogram it for 2 days. I don't get a phone for 2 days. I don't know what I have, you know. People say they have like Jelly Bean or Gingerbread Man, like for an operating system. I have Charles Plus. It's whatever my husband did to it, you know. And my phone does weird stuff other people's phones don't do, and if I want it to do something, I go, honey, make it do this, and he does, you know. So people can make something new happen all the time. We can't ever guess what is really going on. We can't be on the cusp. We can't. But the good thing is, you don't need to be. Your job is not to be a spy. Your job is not to hover over your children and know everything that's going on, right? I mean, I've got a 2-year-old. My job is to hover over her and make sure when she puts something in her mouth that I pop it out, or tell her not to eat sand. That's a current one. I don't know why she keeps eating sand. And then she hates it, and it's, oh, that's not fun. But I'm glad we don't have cats in the area. You. But your job isn't to hover anymore. Your job is to teach them to be good adults. That's my theory. Especially once they hit high school, your job is to be a safety net and help teach them how to make good decisions and how to be a good adult, so that when they turn 18, when they go to college, that sort of thing, that they're good to go, not that you're the one creating this protection and you're the one doing all the work, and then they hit 18 and they are just free falling. Right? So it sounds good until you think of the first freshman year and they're totally free falling. They don't know how to do anything. They don't know how to protect themselves. They don't know how to make decisions. So my theory about kids is to do it that way, is to really teach them. So it's all about, like Rajani has for this seminar and series, is communication. So for texting, it's really about, you know, you guys understanding what it is. It's usually pictures nowadays, and what's appropriate, what's not, right? So then we get into what's okay, right? How many of you guys have arguments with your kids about what's appropriate to wear? Especially here in Arizona, it's hot. Whether it's boys or girls. I mean, I saw guys running down the street a day or two ago, freezing cold in the morning, and they're wearing like little tiny shorts, no shirt. They're high school boys. And I was like, what? Like, seriously, it's freezing cold, and what, you're trying to show off those little muscles you got or something? I mean, it was just funny. None of the girls, they were in a place, no girls were looking. I don't know what they were doing, but you know, they're just trying to show off. And you know, feeling what your body is and getting used to your body, getting used to your sexuality, that stuff's good. That stuff's what they're supposed to be doing. But you know, talking about it, and when it comes to what's appropriate, it's one of those things, you know it when you see it, just like pornography. And you can talk about certain things. You know, with girls, I tend to teach them the tilt test. You know, when you go into a mirror, tilt forward, you shouldn't have to see anything, and you shouldn't see anything from the back, right? You know, the bend test. I'm short, so I always have to do those tests because everybody can see down on me. There's little tests like that you can do, but really, you can be covered top to bottom and still be pretty scandalous. You can take a picture and it has nothing to do with nudity, and it can look scandalous by how your facial structure is or how your hands are. They've actually done research and shown that a more scandalous picture actually shows clothing, not nudity. Complete nudity we see as art. But if you take a nude painting or photograph and you add shoes to it or a little bit of an outfit, it actually is more pornographic. So I thought that was really interesting, that actually adding clothing made it worse, because it added that sensationalism to it. It wasn't just the natural body. So talking to your kids about, you know what, they're smart. They know when they're doing something, and it's more about like understanding that feeling they get inside. They're gonna get like those butterflies in their tummy, they're gonna get all excited, they're gonna get titillated, right? Understanding that that's a good feeling, but at the same time, let's be safe when we do that. Let's only do something that we're willing to be seen on a billboard, because guess what? Nowadays, it can be on a billboard. And I like doing something, I talked to ASU, some kids that, trying to get into college, they're a lower rate of actually entering college, we're trying to really help them out. And we talked about sexting. And I had them all write on the board all the careers that they wanted to be. And then I went through and I erased all the ones that would be messed up by sexting. And we had like 3 left. And they were all like entrepreneurial type jobs, because nowadays you get a job and your boss will, well, your to-be boss will have you slide your phone over and say, okay, how do I log into your Facebook? Let me check that out. Let me do a social media search on you. Let me do a background check on you. And in high school, if they do sexting to where they send a picture of themselves, and it is a nudity or something, then that is child porn. And if they then share that with anybody else, like sending it off, it's sharing that child porn, not just taking the picture, which in and of itself was pornography, but then sharing it was then another thing. So we start writing all that up. That stuff doesn't go away off your record very easily. That's like big lawyer stuff you got to deal with. So when we talk about, I couldn't be a counselor even if I'd done something like that in high school. That would never go away. It would never be off my record, and it would be very hard for me to get a job. My license would be gone in a heartbeat. So thinking about all the careers you can't do nowadays, because we have such great ability to do background checks and such, which is good, but at the same time, we can't always clear off even things that happen in high school, because they can follow you around, let alone something happens, and how long does it take you to get over that? What's the emotional impact of that? I mean, think about what happens just when they have a breakup, or if they have a fight with a friend, let alone have a legal issue, or everybody in the school sees a picture about them, or whether people like the picture or don't like the picture or whatever. I mean, that emotional part is really what it's all about. So when it comes to talking to your kids about things like sexting, I always say it's not about telling them what not to do, because you can't come up with everything that's going to happen. You can't come up with every little thing not to do. Instead, you tell them what to do. So much easier, right? So they only want to do stuff that they're willing to put on a billboard. That's my #1 rule, is if you don't want it on a billboard someday, you don't want absolutely everybody you've ever met, anyone you ever will meet, to see it, do not put it on your phone or on the internet, because they will find it. So if you're not willing to put it on a billboard, on the side of school campus or something, do not do it. That's something to write in a physical hand journal, diary, or something, or to say in person, That's something to really think about doing. And if they want to say something in person to somebody, let's say they have a boyfriend, girlfriend, they want to say I love you, they want to say something, a little more intimate, well, that's in person. There's not going to be a record of that, as well as they have to have the guts to do that in person. That's like a different step. They don't have that anonymity, they're not hiding behind the screen. It's not that they're really emotional and they're texting at 2 a.m. I would say also that we always make bad decisions when we are hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Halt. So don't do anything when you're like that. When you're hungry or angry or lonely or tired, this is like old school 12-step stuff, just go deal with it. Eat some food. Yell, scream, throw a fit, go yell, deal with the actual hurt emotion behind the anger. Lonely, go hang out with your family members. I mean, that's the great thing about having a family. Go sit on the couch and cuddle up to mom and dad. Tired? Take a nap. Teenagers need a ton of sleep. And I know a lot of people get annoyed that teenagers are sleeping all the time. They need it. They're actually really growing. And when you learn, you have to sleep for that memory to go into long-term memory. Your hippocampus, I imagine it like a big old hippo, he has to file all your memories away. So teenagers are learning a lot, not just in school, but also socially. They're learning so many social skills that just going and hanging out with friends and chit-chatting all day was a big learning experience. They need to take a nap. And during that nap, they're going to process that information and file it away. So those are my first ones, is to not do anything. If you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, deal with those things first. Make sure it's on a billboard. And then just to make sure that they remember that they're true to themselves, that they want to be their best self. They found out that with girls especially, if you want them not to do something, just tell them that they're too good for it. So instead of saying, oh, well, don't do this because this can happen to you. There's all these bad ramifications. No, you just say you're too good for that. You're too good to wear a piece of clothing that's 1/4 of a yard of fabric. You're too good to waste 5 hours talking to a guy on the phone when you've got a final tomorrow. And that's all you got to say. You're too good for X. You don't have to go any farther than that. It's an awesome little cut and paste for like 100 different things you can say. And you can add more to it if you want to. You know, you're too smart for this. You have too bright of a future. You have too many great friends to be wasting too much time on the drama of one friend. I mean, you can get really fancy with it, but honestly, if you plug and chug this, you're fine. You don't have to get fancy. You can do this all day and they're not gonna notice. They're gonna think it's awesome. They're gonna think mom and dad are saying good things about them because you're telling them wonderful, good stuff. Instead of saying no, 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 you're saying you're awesome, you're awesome, you're awesome. Okay, so always do like the 10-finger helper and the awesome stuff, and you'll actually get your way a lot more, right? More bees with honey than with vinegar, right? And it works really great. And so then we get into more of the bigger topics, because if we're not going to tell them not to sext, and we're not going to tell them not to send out pictures and things like that, we're just, you know, going to tell them about some of the dangers, you know, tell them about some of the things that can happen. You can always have them look up and tell you legally what can happen, that sort of thing. But basically, we all know big, scary, yucky things will happen, right? That's not new. But to tell them, you know, talk to them about who they really are. I think it's always important, you know, on a regular basis, obviously not daily, but whenever big things happen. So I like, you know, New Year's, I like around April, I like middle of the summer, and I like a little bit after school started. So like 4 times a year, to have a little talk, not very long, 20 minutes, never more than 30 minutes, about, okay, so what are your hopes and dreams for the big stuff, like 5-year, 10-year plan? What are some of the stuff on that? I don't care if it's I want to snowboard down this mountain. What's on your list? What sort of things are in your immediate future, you know? And, you know, all that good stuff. Who are the good people in your life? Who are your good supports? You're just sort of checking in with all the cool stuff going on in their life. What's right here, what's now? What are you looking at in the next few months? What's on sort of your 5-year plan? And what's on like your big 10-year plan, right? If you talk to them about that, that's going to keep them focused on, yeah, I want all these awesome, cool things. And so to do that, I need to do this. And then you get your 2 cents of saying, you know what? So is there anything, and you don't say it, you do not give answers. Anything you need to do to make any of this happen? Anything you need to change now? Well, you know, I really want to join speech and debate, but I've got these friends that they take up a ton of my time, and if I do LD, that's a lot of research. Well, then maybe you need to find friends that are more into speech and debate, right? Maybe you need to find friends who can help you practice, or ask your friends if they're willing to do that. You know, whatever it may be. Maybe their support system is off, maybe their self-care is off. They want to do something, but they never have enough time to sleep or to exercise, have fun, just sit around and have fun like kids really should. Talking to them about that. What can you do to make yourself successful? So success talks. Now, this is where we're going to get a little more specific, which is when we come to sexting and talking about sex, success talks then goes into what is success in the sex world. Okay, yeah, that's why you're here. You're going to hear all the nasty stuff, right? I'm going to say the S word. I'm not going to say anything nasty, don't worry. I'm always very clean. But when you talk about that, a lot of people are told, no, don't have sex, don't get pregnant, don't get an STD, don't, right? Don't close your door if you have a boy or a girl in there. Don't be caught just alone. Don't be sitting in the back of the movie theater. Don't go parking in a car. Well, what are they supposed to do? They've got all these hormones, they've got these wants, they've got these needs, they've got these things going on. What are they supposed to do? So you don't have to tell them exactly what's okay. Well, at this age, you're allowed to kiss. And at this age, it's this base. And at this age, it's this. And that's not what we're going to do. Instead, how about we talk about what a relationship really is, you know, and what are they getting out of it? So telling them, you know, and one of the best examples is telling them about yourself. You know, telling them, oh yeah, it felt so good today that, you know, oh, I can't wait till your dad gets home because I really could just use a good hug and a good cuddle today. And you guys give good cuddles, but you know what? Sometimes I need a daddy cuddle. And that tells them that that's part of your relationship. Sounds weird, but that's a great place to model. And that doesn't have to be, you know, mother, father, significant other. It can also be, you know, oh, I need my friend's hug, that sort of thing. It's you modeling those relationships and vocalizing it, which can be very difficult to do. And in high school, it might feel a little late to do, but it's not. You know, But that also says, you know, how healthy are you guys being? Are you taking date nights? Are you putting yourself first sometimes and telling them it's okay to need that part in your life? You know, telling them it's okay to, you know, feel that you want to dress a little sexy, or, hey, I picked, you know, I'm glad your dad's wearing this sweater. I think he looks great in it, you know, or whatever it may be. You're not obviously going to be opening up your bedroom door sort of thing, or your secret drawer, nothing like that. But about the success is that we need someone who's supportive, right? Emotionally supportive. And I can really define that by what it's not, which sounds horrible. But somebody who's very open to you, somebody who's going to be your cheerleader, right? I love that song, you know, found a cheerleader sort of thing. But someone who's not controlling at all, right? We don't want somebody, especially in high school, who's saying you can't do this, you can't do that, whether it's hang out with a friend or anything at all. Controlling is bad, right? Of course, that's a not, so that doesn't tell you what it is. But saying that somebody who wants you to be your best you, somebody who wants you to do great in the world, and that doesn't always have to include them, that they want you to have fun, they want you to be the best you, right? So someone who's emotionally supportive always wants the best you. And that goes for boyfriends and girlfriends as well, and also friends. Right? People think that you only sext with boyfriends, girlfriends, and opposite sex. That's not true. A lot of kids actually sext to each other. Think about locker room talk with guys and girls chit-chatting about all sorts of things, you know, whether it's tampons or bra size or what they're gonna wear. They actually have a lot of sexual conversation with everybody. It doesn't matter gender, it doesn't matter about what sexuality they are, it doesn't matter about any of that. This is a topic that they don't know anything about. They're not taught how to talk about it. They're not taught about anything really. I mean, oh my gosh, there's so much they don't know, and they need to process through it and figure it out for themselves. So they're gonna talk to everybody, which is good and bad because their source, you know, consider the source. They're not having great sources, they're sort of learning together. So nowadays they have a little more information, you know, there's sex ed, that sort of thing. But at least giving them the basics that they need to have people that are emotionally supportive of them. So yeah, if they are questioning their sexuality or they're talking to somebody, that people aren't putting them down. Of course, we talk about bullying and such, but this is more of the small, insidious little things, not quite bullying, the little things that you're not going to catch so much. And then also about when it comes to sexuality, it's something that is never pressured. Now there's a great thing, I don't know if you guys have seen it on Facebook especially, it's on my Facebook all the time. It's about consent, and consent shown with T. It's so awesome. And it's all like, and the English came up with it, of course, and it says, you know, if you talk to somebody about having tea and they say no thank you, you don't give them tea. If you make somebody a cup of tea, they go to drink it and they decide not to, do not pour it down their throat. If they pass out after you've made the tea, do not open their mouth and shove it down their throat, right? It's about consent for sexuality, and that's whether it's having full intercourse or kiss or anything. You don't make somebody do anything, and you always ask. And so I do recommend you have a talk with your kids about consent, because we actually often teach our kids, just like everything else, big gray areas. You know, I even tell my kids before we leave Grandma and Papa's house, give Grandma a hug, give Papa a hug, right? And if they say no, I'm sort of like, well, you know, Grandma and Papa love you and they're gonna miss you, so they'd really love a hug. And if they're really against it, I'm not going to force it, right? Because we're not supposed to force physicality. That teaches them that their body is not their own. Now, I do try to get them to do it because that's sort of a norm, that it's not, you know, they're fully clothed, it's nothing sexual, that sort of thing, but it goes that little. It goes down to that little of what consent is, and do they have the right over their own body? And when they're friends and they're hanging around high school, you'd be surprised how often things like a hug can actually be a big deal. And for teenage girls, teenage boys, a hug can be a problem. I mean, imagine being a teenage boy, you have an erection, and then everybody in the band room, I remember being in band and we all, like, before we performed, like, they'd turn on music and we'd all walk around and hug each other. I'm sorry, that would be very not great, right? That'd be very embarrassing. And, or what if a girl, you know, a lot of girls have felt this, I don't know a woman who hasn't, where they've gotten a hug and it was sort of to feel that sort of you, right? Somebody gave you a hug and they're just trying to feel those breasts and such upon them, that sort of thing. A lot of women have been touched inappropriately, hugged inappropriately, hands just happen to slip into different areas. That happens to high schoolers too, among themselves, with other people. It's something where they need to feel that they can say no to absolutely everything and learn ways to do it. You know, if you go to hug somebody and you feel pressured to hug them, do a little side hug. You know, do the hip-to-hip side hug, and that'll be a great way to do it. If you want to say no in a polite way, or do a high five, or just be like, oh, excuse me, I have to go to the restroom. No one will ever tell you you can't pee. I've never been in a situation where you can't say you have to pee, and that's a great way to do it. Just get out and go pee. No one will stop you, ever. So really, consent is a great thing to talk about. And consent from the littlest things. And talking about how consent is actually asking. And that yes, consent can be a physical thing. And that it's okay to give a little consent. Like if I were to walk up to somebody and I just sort of go, and then they come at me doing the same thing, and then we start to hug, that was us. I paused and asked for consent. They opened up their arms and continued. They consented, right? It was a physical act of consent. It wasn't saying, hey, do you want a hug? Sign here on this contract. So you don't have to have verbal consent, but it's a very obvious physical consent. And you guys can practice this and see that you probably already do it in your household anyway. You probably are already asking with your eyes, asking with small little physical things that you do, and you'll find that they're gonna be like, oh wow, I didn't notice that I did that, you know? And do they have friends that don't ask? People who come up from behind them and start massaging their shoulders without asking, or they don't even know who that creep is that's just started touching them, and they hope it's their friend, but who knows who's doing what, right? So it's figuring out, you know, what is appropriate and empowering them to be able to say no. And being able to say, hey, hands off. Or come up with certain little small key phrases that are okay to say that get them out of that situation, you know? And I like having just little short canned things you can use over and over and over again. And the words that hurt, whether it's emotional or physical, always works. Somebody comes up, let's say they go to give a massage, you say that hurt. Or they go to give you a hug, you go, oh, that hurt. Whether it's emotional or physical, those two little words, that hurt, will stop anybody in their tracks. It's not yelling fire, it's not yelling some big thing, it's not making a scene, but it's stopping, okay? And most people will stop at that point. If people don't stop, then you know, you have the fun where you teach them other things they might need to know. I also say that if you need anybody, you feel that your child needs to learn how to physically protect themselves, there are a lot of places they can go in the valley to learn to physically protect themselves. We worry usually more about girls than boys, you know, especially going to college and rape and things like that. There are some classes that teach you how to protect yourself even when you're on your tummy on the floor. Usually the gun rangers are the ones who teach them. Really good. C2 has it, Caswell's has it. You get to beat up on this guy dressed up. They don't care if you're male or female, and it's an awesome, fun class to take. I think it'd be a great, like, you know, get some parents, get some kids together and go wail on this guy. It's awesome. It's tons of fun. I've done it. I've beaten him up, and it's fun. Okay, that's like a great Christmas present. Be like, get the girls like a thing where they can go as a Groupon, like all the, I say girls, but you know, a set of kids. And you get a whole set of kids and they can just like go there and like wail on this person. And they realize that they do have the power. And me, a little person, I can flip a over 6 foot tall guy and I'm 4'11". And it's all that sort of judo stuff, you know, you take their energy and you flip them. I can beat up somebody much bigger than me. And it's not about having to beat them up, it's about getting away. You don't have to be faster than the bear, you have to be faster than your friend, right? So it's learning how to get away and what to do and how to protect yourself. But also they'll teach them what to do in the small situations and what to do in the bigger situations. So if need be, and I always think that's great stuff to have in your back pocket just in case. I'm a therapist and I've been attacked. So, you know, there's times where even professionally, it's a good thing to know and have. You know, maybe I'm walking down the street somewhere, you know, going to a concert in downtown Phoenix and somebody comes out of nowhere. I want to know how to protect myself. So it's not just something for girls, it's not just something for rape, it's something just to feel safe and within your body and own your body to know that you can protect it. And that's verbally to say no, that's to be able to get yourself out of situations, as well as maybe kick some butt, you know, can't hurt. I think it's fun. So, you know, consent can be a weird one, but I love that little video about tea. A lot of kids are talking about consent nowadays. It's a hot topic. You can find lots of cool videos on it. You know, I like making things homework for kids, by the way. Why do you have to do the work? Tell them, hey, I want to know what you know about consent So why don't you take a week and we will talk Monday at 6 o'clock at the dinner table. I don't know, I eat early, I have little kids. And you give me a little report. You can show me videos, you can tell me what you think. It doesn't have to be fancy, but give me an idea about it. Make them do the homework. You guys don't have to go online and like come up with a PowerPoint and everything. They've got more time than you do. Let them do it, right? And then you get to see what they're seeing and what they're finding out and what's going on in their head, because they're the ones coming up with it. And if you want, they can do it with their friends or whatever, but make it fun. You know, make it something they can just bring up, and they can even just show you one little video they found online. I don't care. That's at least they looked for it. They're thinking about it, right? And then we get to the big old, just general sex talk, right? Well, when it comes to the sex chat, we do have the basics. We have the wear a condom, be safe, don't get an STD, don't get pregnant, all that fun stuff. That's pretty much covered by sex ed. Those are pretty basics. But the thing is, they tend to have a lot of questions. I recommend giving kids good information. Because they have the internet, they have a load of bad information. Those of us in Quad S, which is sss.org, it's the Society for the Scientific Study of Sexuality. We come together and we try to check on Wikipedia and correct stuff. We cannot keep up with it, because people can go on there and correct stuff how they feel it's right. And so we try to like divvy it up, and there's certain words I'll search for, and I'll randomly search other things, and we try and correct the information. It's very difficult because all these people putting in the wrong information. I wish there was a way to block certain sites that need to be strictly done. But they have a lot of websites out there, but personally I prefer books, because I don't want the kids finding bad stuff. You know, and there's some great books. I love The Science of Orgasm by Beverly Whipple and Commiserate. I love Questions About Sex by Beverly Whipple. There's also more towards kids, but you know what? By the time they're in high school, they don't need kid information. They need adult information. If you want to be a little more liberal, but especially if your kid's 16 or older, there's a book called Guide to Getting It On. It is the end-all, be-all dictionary of everything sexual, and the part that they print is the stuff that doesn't change. It's the anatomy, it's some of the basics, and in the back, they tell you what is online that they update all the time. We're talking like all the time, because we can't keep up. Like slang, I can't keep up with sexual slang. People come in and say stuff and I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, don't you have your PhD in this? Well, yeah, but I can't keep up with street slang on this stuff, come on, you know? And so it is everything. It is everything on transgendered, everything about BDSM. I mean, how many kids are watching 50 Shades of Grey and Darker and all that stuff? Everything about everything is in the Guide to Getting It On. So. Yeah, and it's all accurate. It's all very much well documented, and it's only by sexual educators. So if it's not documented and researched, it's not in there. And they do it in a fun way. It looks like it's written for a high school, not high school, but a college crowd. Okay? So, you know, it's a cute little book. It's on Amazon, ships same day even. It's great. Has a little zipper on it. Huh? Guide to Getting It On. It's like, it's awesome. Of course, it's on my bookshelf at work. Getting it on. Because your kids can find all the bad information. So if they want to know, how do lesbians have sex? That's in there. How do gay guys have sex? That's in there. How does somebody in a wheelchair have sex? It's in there. They have everything in there. Actually, I need to check on a couple of things. I thought about that. So people wonder about this, and kids wonder about it, and the bad thing is we used to wonder, but we'd have to like sneak off to encyclopedias or something. I mean, old school, and maybe find the joy of sex or something. I mean, that's not going to give you much information, but nowadays they can go and look at porn sites and all sorts of things, and the Guide to Getting On even has a section about how pornography is not real. It is camera work. It does a lot of unsafe stuff. What is unsafe that they're showing you? What are the things that are real and not real, right? It's almost like a Mythbusters for pornography. So it's very good, and it's in just a very plain nomenclature right out there. Okay, so check it out. It's a really good book. It's not so boring as Whipple. Beverly Whipple's the lady who found the G-spot. She's a nurse. Her stuff is very scientific. So if you really want to know, well, why does orgasm feel good? She'll explain the dendrites in the brain and the dopamine and the this and the that and all that good stuff. But the one the kids like is Guide to Getting It On. It has everything. They will think that's the best Christmas present ever. But I think of that more of if you think they're around the age where they're going to be sexually active, you know, or they're right before that. That has every answer they could ever want. I don't think education's ever a bad idea though. That's my own slant, because I'd rather them have the right answers than have the wrong ones. And it is amazing how many bad, wrong answers there are out there. I get adults who don't know how to have sex, adults who don't know that there's an emotional component to it, adults who don't know how babies are actually made. I know that sounds weird, but adults come into me all the time, we're in their 30s, and they have no clue what a woman's cycle is like. They have no clue how often a man makes sperm. They have no clue about any of this stuff. And all of it's in there, right? And if they wonder, they can just look it right up. Because there's too many questions out there to really answer. I mean, I have to stay on top of this stuff. It's a lot to know. And kids can just question, and before they would question, maybe talk to their friends, and then it would sort of go away. Nowadays, they whip out that phone, and they get a bad answer. I hate bad answers, you know, but that's a great way to do it. And also, you know, if you're willing to talk to them about it, then talk, right? And that's okay. There's all these awesome shows too on Netflix and different things. If they're curious about transgendered people, find a cool show on transgendered people and watch it together, or just co-watch it. You know, I watch it during my time, you watch it during your time, and we'll chit-chat about it in the car driving to school, or you know, something along those lines. You don't have to always sit in front of the TV, watch it at the same time. That can feel uncomfortable sometimes, but if you watch it in your own little rooms and you come back and you say, oh, well, did you know that she was gonna do this, or did you know that that was gonna happen? You know they're thinking about it and they're watching it. But I was wondering if you guys, you know, when I come here, usually the parents have specific stuff going on, and they're usually here because they want to know, or they have something that is a question. Because there's really hard questions that we can get into, and I don't know how far you guys want me to go. So anything going on with you guys, or questions you have? Yeah?
We had a situation last year in the school that we're no longer in, it was a very small school, where the girls, the question is, what compels, in this case, girls to be so forward with their bodies? I mean, very proudly, like almost happy to have, or act like they're happy to have their pictures shown around. What is going on there? In this particular case, the girl was very shy originally, very socially awkward. She found her popularity when she developed, which was unfortunate in this sense. But you know, it went all around the school, and all the boys got caught with it on their phones.
Yeah.
And then the boys sent it to their friends. What compels that?
Awesome question. Okay, so we need to talk about Love Cup. And anyone who walks into my office ends up hearing about Love Cup. It's funny because whether you're little or big, and your Love Cup obviously needs to be filled with love. But if you get external validation, which is other people doing things like giving you a like or something, all that external stuff coming into your Love Cup, it just puts a hole and it just goes right out, right? It evaporates. It is worth one little drop. Every little like they get on Facebook, 300, 400, 700, it feels good for that 1 second, and then it's gone. It's like eating a Snickers bar or something. It is gone. But if you love yourself, it will actually fill up your Love Cup, and it'll just fill that right up. And if you don't love yourself, you don't like yourself, then the external really works. Because if you look for external, it's easy. For girls, put on something skimpy, go walking down the street. And nowadays, they don't even have to walk down the street. They can sit on their bed and take a picture, get 1 million likes, and just send it all over the world, right? And they can get that attention and get that validation, right? And so it fills that Love Cup. The problem is it's going to be empty in a heartbeat. And just like a sugar crash, they're going to crash. And what are they going to do? They're going to do more. And they always have to do more and more and more and more. It gets to be like a drug. So the way to combat that is, again, fill the internal Love Cup. And that is them loving themselves, liking themselves, thinking there's good stuff about them. You know, what do you like about your body? There's one thing to wear clothes and to get attention for your physicality because you want to get that from other people. There's the other thing that we wear something because we feel good. Right? I mean, when I put on makeup, honestly, I don't do it for anybody else but me. I mean, I'm my own boss. I see people who come to me in tears. They really don't even see me through all their blurry eyes. I put on makeup for myself. I do my hair for myself. I get dressed for myself. Sometimes I go like this to work, though I was mommy today. Sometimes I get all dressed up. I'm in a suit or something. Depends on how I feel. You know, and teaching them that that is something you do for you, not for other people. Yeah, we sort of think, hey, I'm going to a nice restaurant, maybe I'll dress up a little bit, that sort of thing. But you're not doing it for attention. You're not doing it to feel needed or wanted, right? And that stuff just isn't worth anything. It's like sugar. It's totally worth nothing. You're not gonna, is that gonna stick with you in 5 days, 10 days? Are you 6 months from now gonna be like, I got 1,000 likes on Facebook on that? No, it's old news. But how are you gonna feel about even coming in 3rd for swimming trophy? You're gonna love that. You're gonna talk about that 20 years from now, right? You're gonna talk about that your whole life. If you, you know, even do something silly, like do some type of silly craft, you're going to feel that you have a skill. So self-esteem comes in 2 parts. It's all about having a skill or being able to do something, ability, and then actually, this sounds weird. So, so the skill ability, and then then actually practicing it. So that equals self-esteem. So knowing that you can be good and doing good. That can be knowing that you can say a nice thing to a friend. Yeah, but when was the last time you actually complimented a friend or did a nice deed, right? So it can even be something as simple as saying something nice or doing a nice deed or smiling and making somebody's day better just by smiling. But it can also be that you're good at math or you're good at science or you're good at cooking. And you don't have to be good at it, just the fact you can, right? The fact that, heck, my 6-year-old can make a few dinners. He loves the fact he can make spaghetti. That's awesome for a 6-year-old. I let him actually do it. I don't have to cook dinner. And then he feels good about himself, right? And just knowing they can do things, but also they have to get that practice in. So just saying, oh, well, when I was whatever age I used to, you know, and sometimes in high school kids give stuff up. They just like stop doing all the cool stuff they did in junior high, they just focus on friends, they lose their self-esteem because it's all in the past and they don't really believe it's really still there. But once they start practicing it again, this all comes back. So we always wonder, what happened to my cool kid that he can still do everything, but doesn't feel good about himself? You gotta put it into practice. So sometimes we gotta put a shoe up their butt and make them practice it, okay? And since we are still there when they're in high school to lift them up and help them out, is to say, hey, you don't feel good about you. What have you done to be a good person lately? Are you, you know, you say you can do this, that, and the other, but chatter doesn't last much. That doesn't mean anything. I wanna see it. I wanna see you be a nice person. I wanna see you volunteer. I wanna see you do something cool. That matters. I don't care if it's big and great, you just have to do something. So that's where that comes from. So personally, oh, I would kick their little tookie. I'd have them doing, for that sort of thing, I'd be right on that community service stuff and going to, especially with like elderly or little kids and people that don't care what you look like. In situations that don't care what you look like. Also working with animals is a great way because how you look does not matter to animals. So things like that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I would have done. I get into a lot of those situations, but the ones I usually get called into are sex at school, that sort of thing, the bigger stuff.
That was happening too.
Yeah.
They were in 8th grade, so my son was a freshman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was a private school in the country, but it's,
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, yeah?
So I have a very basic level question, and I'm interested in what you recommend as the approach. So they're teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
We know nothing, they know everything. Their friends know everything. The internet knows everything, and it does not lie to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even the tired. I mean, high school starts early. My son went from sleeping 10 to 12 hours a night consistently to having to get up so early, and he sleeps in 7 or 8 hours. I know he's exhausted, but no, he's not.
Mm-hmm.
He's just fine. So how do we approach them and try to get through to them when we're just the dumb parents who know nothing, and of course they know everything. So, you know, how do we get it across that how bad all these things are? I mean, I can tell him all this stuff, I can show him all this stuff, I can ask him to look it up, but it's, oh no, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen, you know, here. That doesn't happen, it won't happen to me. You know, it's that kind of stuff. So what do you recommend as the approach to kind of get over that?
You mean like the sexting won't happen here to him, or how to talk to your kid about how to broach things and not be the stupid parent?
The pictures that it's a child pornography thing, he knows that. He's been taught that. But is he going to think it matters? Because to know. I mean, I see the stuff that gets shared on Snapchat and stuff, and just even the language that's used, and oh no, it's just that's how we talk. You know, and I'm like, no, it's not okay.
Yeah.
But, oh no, that's how everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody always, never, you know, that kind of stuff.
So if you're having a hard time even broaching it, one way to cheat is you don't talk to them. You find an aunt and uncle, a cool friend of yours, a cool community member, like especially somebody that's in a field that they are thinking about doing. If your kid's into music, you find a local musician, another parent that they think is cool or whatever, and they talk to them. And it might be, oh, you know what? Harry down the street, he was asking if somebody could help him clean out his garage. And you make him go help clean out the garage. And Harry has to talk to him while they're sitting there having a soda, taking a break. Okay, that sort of thing. I'm always for, I already do it with the first graders because my friend's kid would not stop taking his seatbelt off, and he was having a problem with hugging kids too much. So I'm like, I'll pick him up from school tomorrow. Guess what's fixed? Because somebody who wasn't his mom told him. And so it's okay to get outside sources and like trade those, because sometimes they won't hear you just because you are mom. And that's okay, and knowing that it doesn't have to be us. It's okay for it to be somebody else. The community police officers are always happy to talk to them. They do have a problem with usually teachers and stuff like that, unless they have like a cool teacher or something like that. So trade it up like that. Aunts and uncles, cool cousins that are older, all that are great people to talk to them. You know, there's usually a hip, cool person, somebody in the family that you can say, hey, why don't you text them or call them up or whatever, or tell them, you know, start that conversation a bit. You know, so having someone you can go to. And if you want to like trade between friends, it's always great. Especially like the college talks and things like that. Those are always good. Yeah. But then on top of that, it's just letting them know that, yeah, you know what, this isn't gonna happen to you, but it's my mom job. That's my excuse all the time, mom job. I have to tell you this, I gotta cross it off my list that I told you this. So file it away somewhere, you know? And there you go, you're done. You checked it off at least. But if you want a real conversation, pawn it off. Yeah. What else? Oh, we don't have all sorts of problems? Wow, that's pretty cool. Sounds good. But yeah, I mean, mostly knowing that, you know, that it can also help for it to be anonymous and to pawn it off. You know, like I said, if you have another family member that you think they might open up to better, if they go to a local church, especially that has like a teen division or something, those are always awesome. There's so many places that can talk to the kid. I'm used for that quite a bit. I get a lot of like 1 or 2 sessions with kids just so they can come in and play stump the teacher sort of thing, and we just talk about everything. Of course, and it's funny how much the parents are like, oh, they're not even gonna talk to you. I had to pull them in here. They're in their jammies. They're still eating their breakfast. And because I work on Saturdays with kids, and they'll come in and then they like lay it all on the line. They're spewing, they're talking, they're all energized, and then their parent comes to come in the room and they're like, and I'm like, what happened? You were like hyper, you loved this. I showed you how to take a flavored condom and make a dental dam, you know? I mean, if the parent tells me I can tell them anything, I will answer any question. I will give it honestly and age appropriately, but you better know that they're gonna be learning quite a bit in that hour, you know? Also, I am happy to do chats, sex chats, so you bring a load of teenagers to my office, we sit there and talk for 1.5 hours to 2 hours, I answer all their questions, you know, whatever, and then you pick them up and take them home. That's always fun. I do that with women for like bachelorette parties and for couples. I've never had a group of guys, which is weird, but guys have never wanted to sit around and talk about sex yet. But just to answer questions, because people have questions, you know? People who wanted to know about 50 Shades of Grey and how like the book should just be bleeding with all the inaccuracies. When I was trying to fix it with a red pen, I had to stop. It took too much time. But they ask questions, you know, people have questions. They can always, if you're okay with it, they can send a question onto my Facebook. I'm happy to answer it. I'll just always answer it honestly, from a clinical, scientific, emotional space, okay? A very safe place like that. Yeah.
Kids will open up with someone they don't know versus like wanting it off to a friend or an aunt or uncle or taking them to a counselor, and you think that they would just get pissed that you're taking them to a counselor and they would just shut down and not talk.
Not with me. I'm a military brat, and so I've moved every single year at least once, and so I'm very good at making friends. It's one thing that I think helps me be a counselor is I connect with people very quickly. School always started end of September, end of August, beginning of September. My birthday's in October, so I had 1 month to make friends or else no birthday party. So I'm very good at making friends very quickly, learn that very fast. And so if you go to a therapist, see what they say about connecting with kids and about getting them to open up, my answer would be every kid opens up for me. I've never had a problem with a kid. Even if they come in and they're quiet for maybe the first 10, 20 minutes, that's usually a kid that is using drugs, that's an older kid, usually very abused, that sort of thing. They're not coming in just for a sex chat or something. But I get a lot of kids from Hamilton. I've never had any of them not talk to me like motor mouth. And their parent always thinks they're bringing them in all sullen, and at the end they're like leaving, oh yeah, I guess we talked. You know, and I call the parent up the next day and say, okay, this is what we covered. I give the big blows of what we covered and let them know what happened. Or I say, just don't answer your phone and I'll call you in 10 minutes and I'll leave a message on what happened. Just the big blows sort of thing, no details. And they're always great. I've never had a problem. So you have to know how to make people open up. I've worked with a lot of resistant populations, people straight out of prison and jail who had to get clean, you know, everybody who doesn't want to be there. So they don't have to want to be there. You just have to get their butt there, and I'm good.
And do you think like a one-time thing would be good, or?
Once or twice, depending on if they have sexual questions, you know, and you just be like, hey, you get to go to her and ask questions, and if you don't ask, she's just going to teach you, you know, and I'll just start doing a little show. You know, and you'd be surprised how much then they start talking, and then I get them to open up and then ask questions and know where they can get information, that sort of thing. So it just depends on what they want. They also can just peruse my website. I've got some information on there. I haven't quite put up like Sex 101 and things like that yet, because it's just hard to figure out what kids want. They just can get access to so much nowadays. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think there's a problem. So. Yeah.
I'm curious about device addiction. I have a couple of preteens. My little son is 14, my daughter is 12. And I'm struggling with what's appropriate for letting them use their devices on school nights, on the weekend. My husband and I don't necessarily agree. Of course, the kids think they should be able to use it as much as they want because other kids get to use their devices all the time. So where's the expert opinion on what to allow for them?
Well, it's that they have to have balance in their life, right? So they need to have time where they can be creative. And when you're using your phone, you're probably not in your devices, you're not being creative. But if they're on their device and they're making a movie or they're drawing and they're doing stuff, are they being creative, right? So making sure they have sort of play time. That's what creative time is, play time. They could be cooking, they could be fashion designing, they could be, but that could also be picking out an outfit, right? So do they have creativity in their life? Do they have downtime where they really are just bleh? Because they are learning so much and processing so much, they do need to have times where they just sit and watch TV or do nothing. Do they have downtime where they are doing nothing but they're not being, they're not numbing out with a TV or something? Are they sitting in the back porch and just sitting on a hammock or walking to the park, taking walks, things like that? Being able to calm themselves down. Do they have the ability to calm themselves down? I get a lot of kids who don't have that ability. They have very little frustration tolerance because as soon as they feel upset, they want to go to that and that calms them down. They know that, oh, if you don't feel good, go watch cat stuff on YouTube or go watch this video or, oh, this is my go-to when I don't feel good. No, what do you do? What if I take your phone and I stomped on it? What do you do to feel better? You can't do that, right? So if they have the skills and abilities and they have some balance, they have social time with their friends, it's not on the phone, that's face-to-face, right? So just looking at how their life is. So you could have one kid that has a whole complete balance to life, they're doing great. I would let them have their phone and their devices whenever they want because they balance themselves out. There's other kids who can't balance themselves out. They haven't reached that point yet, especially because they don't know how to cope with their emotions, they don't know how to calm themselves down, they don't know how to self-regulate very well, and so they need to learn to self-regulate. And once they learn that, you don't have to do, so I prefer to teach the kid rather than monitor the stuff. So if you teach the kid to self-monitor, you don't have to monitor what many hours they're on. So that's my version. You know, you house-proof the kid, you don't kid-proof the house. Yeah. So work on those things. And there's workbooks on my website for kids learning how to deal with their own emotions and such, so they could do that at home, 1 chapter a week. You guys can do it together. There's fun activities, things like that. You can ask Rajani for stuff. You can send them to a counselor. You can just talk about the little stuff that they need. What, 2 years old?
No, we've been to 2 counselors already this year.
Oh, okay.
So 1 male, 1 female, and that's where we're struggling with.
Okay.
of that?
Well, there's also a match. They have to match with the counselor. And so it's very important to, I always say with kids, go to 3 intakes and then pick one. Because kids need to pick who they think is going to be a good match to them. And it may not be who you think. You know, a girl, people always think, oh, we'll take her to girls. And boys, we'll take them to boys. Not always. You know, I let them go through Psychology Today and pick out therapists, and then go to 3 intakes and pick one. Who do you like? And it could have just been that they had a good breakfast that morning. Doesn't matter. If they like the person, they're going to work better. Yeah. But most of us have like videos and junk. You can get to know us. Okay. Other questions?
General question again. Lot of times I think we don't really get to know what they're doing, right? And it's not that we get to see them very first time when they send a patient to somebody else.
Yeah.
I have 2 daughters, but they're very young. When you hear things like this, you really want to know what are there any general indicators, say maybe red flags that you see in their behavior that can tell you that hey, there is something going on.
Well, yeah, I would see that, are they really doing all the things that they used to do? Are they talking about and doing things that make them feel good about themselves? You know, do they have hobbies, interests? Are they, whether they're telling you or showing you that they have stuff going on in their life? Are they pulling away? Are they wanting more of that private time in their room? All teenagers want private time in their room and such, but, really, there's a difference between, oh, I'm going in my room and you shut the door versus, they're hiding in their room, right? The long hours on the phone. I do say if your kid can't manage it, yeah, put the restrictions on there and make their phones and their devices not work. There's different ways to do it, whether you make the router turn off, you can control the phone, you can control all that sort of stuff so it turns off at a certain time of night. Because you're asleep and they're waking up at 1 o'clock and they're going crazy, right? Nothing good happens after midnight, and for teenagers, nothing good happens after like 9 p.m. So, 9 p.m. till like 5 a.m. if they're an early bird, there's no reason to have a phone. You're in the house, you're with me, you're good. There's no reason you need that. Of course, you need to call 911, just make a big scream or something, I'm in the house, right? I mean, we never had phones, so we didn't have that stuff. We did just fine. You don't have to know where your kid is all the time, but you can sort of tell when they're being shady. There's no one specific thing, but if you feel your kid is being shady, I say the first thing to do is spend more time with them. The best influence they can have is family. And who they're around is what influences them and what changes them. They are like chameleons. They become what's around them. And if they're around friends that you're not really liking, for one, get to know them. You might have misjudged their friends. But for 2, just be like, hey, I don't care whether you like it or not, you're stuck to my hip. This weekend we're going to Home Depot and we're going, all these boring little things. They'll love it. And your influence on them is 10 times better than anything else. So whenever you're worried about your kids, strap them to your hip and a little more. That's the best thing you can do. Because nowadays kids have so much time where they're doing. They don't have just lazy downtime with mom and dad. So, what else? Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions on what's the appropriate age or maybe grade to have a social media account or certain social media accounts?
It really depends on the kid for that one. Kids that are emotionally more secure and emotionally able to do things can do younger. It also depends on what they're doing. I have a niece and a nephew who are actors, so they have social media accounts, but they can't access them. They didn't access them until they were like 13 or something, but they had to have them for their careers. So that was a little different. But in general, because even then they had a few little negative remarks, oh, you were awful last night, or something stupid. Your hair looked dumb in this movie. It was stupid stuff. But you don't want your kids seeing that, right, when they're 6. That's just not a nice thing to do. So really you have to gauge it for your own kid. I mean, I have a 6-year-old that has a huge EQ, loves himself, and if he continues to be who he is, I would give him a social media account in the drop of a hat. But his sister, she's a little more wild and crazy. She has a decent EQ, but she's only 2. I don't know her very well. I meet kids all the time that come in my office. I would trust them in a heartbeat. They could handle the blows. Can they handle a little bullying and such and be able to come and get help? Can they then have good boundaries with that and turn it off, block the people, or are they going to take that to their heart? So you need to make sure that they have that resiliency. So if you feel your kid is resilient emotionally, they can have an account. If not, gotta wait. So that's what I would be looking for. And I know that's a hard thing to gauge, but you can tell. Does your kid, you know, have a thing with a friend and feel like, oh, that was sad. Okay, let me go take care of myself and let me go do something else. Or do they have like a small falling out with a friend and it's like 2-3 days, right? If they have a hard time emotionally bouncing back, we don't need them to be online where it's so much going on and it's so immediate. They can't handle it. No, you guys have great questions.
A self-defense class. Can you talk more about that or give us something specific, the name of the place?
Oh, if you go to C2, it's a shooting range by IKEA. They have the self-defense classes there. They're a brand new facility of, well, a few years ago. I think they're 3 years, 4 years old. They're indoor air-conditioned shooting range. I am a military brat, so I do shoot. They have great classes, and they have self-defense. It is meant more for women, and it is against rape and other bodily harm, and it is all, and that's why they do have you actually lay down and even on your tummy and see that you can still protect yourself. And they'll teach you how to do it with nothing, but you know, they first teach you how to be aware of your situation, how to, you know, avoid things. So it's from the small little steps, how to use your voice. Your voice is so powerful, and then if need be, that you get physical. But it is important. I mean, I'm little, I'm always gonna be little. If somebody wants to pick me up, throw me against the wall, they always can. That's not fancy, but I need to be able to protect myself if something does happen. You know, and like I said, you never know what's gonna happen. Yeah.
The Chandler Police Department has a course, especially for young women. So get on their website. They have it, you know, a couple of times a year, you know, spring and fall type thing. So just monitor the website.
Yeah. There's a lot of great places that have them. I just make sure that they also do the on the floor, because that's when we're most vulnerable, is when we're laying down. A lot of us know how to kick and bite and scream when we're standing up, but if we're laying down or sitting down, then we don't know what we're doing. And it's fun. It's tons of fun to beat some guy up for no reason, right? So, I mean, we've always wondered, like, what would it be like, right? It's tons of fun, and they can do it with like the keys, and they can learn about pepper spray, and they can learn about all these different things. I mean, heck, if you got just a normal pen from your purse, you can do enough damage to at least get yourself out of the situation. So that's all you're trying to do, is get safe and get out of the situation. So, anything else? I'm wondering how many of you are going to go pick up the guide to getting it on just for yourself, right? Just to be like, what was going on in 50 Shades? Or what is it that those people do over there? You know, because there's actually a lot of great information on that, and with the online version. And online, you don't need an access code or anything. If you look for it, most of their book is free online. And then, like I said, the book is still pretty darn thick when you buy it. But online is all the stuff they have to keep updating because things change every day. So it's really great information, even just so that you guys can answer questions, because you might, especially with everything going on, get a lot of trans questions, a lot of bi-curious questions. I get a lot of kids through the office who are curious about their sexuality, about their gender, and that's just pretty typical nowadays. People are questioning it just because it seems like something you're supposed to question, just like going to college. So those things come up. Okay.
I feel like working at the high school, I see lots of the girls that are confident girls that who are in a relationship, know that they're in love with this person, and then they share the pictures, and it takes, like, you know, I'm still working with some of the girls from 2 years ago. It takes a long time because of the condition, you know, and sometimes just 2 years ago, if they knew what they knew now or had those conversations, it could have prevented it. But sometimes then kids are impulsive. They're high schoolers, right?
Right.
And especially when emotions are raging and they just feel like they'll be with this person forever. So what's the big deal if I share a few pictures? You know? And they never think that, you know, once it's out there for everybody to see. So then some of these kids end up, you know, anxiety.
Yeah.
It's really devastating.
Definitely. They can get anxiety, depression. It can derail their whole future for years to where they're going to college late. They can just feel like they can't trust anybody. Huge things can happen when, to us, it's almost common sense. Are you going to send a teenage boy a picture? You know, he's not going to have good impulse control either. Or what if his family have a shadow thing on his phone and they get everything that he got, you know, and now you've got, it's a legal issue and it's a school issue, and it's just, there's no great reason to do it. You know, there are times to put yourself at risk. Like if somebody were dying and bleeding, would I give them CPR and risk getting HIV or something? Yes. But would I go and drink somebody's blood for no reason? No. You know, there's no great outcome. There's no good thing you're going to get from sending a selfie that's a nudie or something. There's no good big thing. That goes for adults too. I talk to adults all the time who have problems at work and such because they've been sexting at work and then it finds out it's coworkers and this and that. Let me tell you, the tech world keeps me in business. I mean, some of them are not so great at hiding stuff and their bosses have access to those phones and laptops. Hooey. But there's no great outcome, right? The risk does not line up with reward. And to teach your kids that risks are awesome. It's awesome to climb a mountain. It's awesome to go for your dream job. It's awesome to interview for a job that you're totally not qualified for because it's an hour out of your day, right? Who cares? That's how I got all my jobs, by the way, is I've always interviewed for like the job 2 above, and then I've gotten that job, and it's got me into the door every single time. But those are risks worth taking because the only thing I risk is a no that I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get anyway, or oops, I don't make it all the way up the mountain, or I trained really hard, or you know, whatever. There's no big, horrible outcome, right? But the risk and the reward need to match up. And there's, can they even say, what is the reward of sending a nude picture to somebody? 2 seconds of them going, ooh, it's cute, right? It's not a big thing. There's not a huge reward there. And if there is a big reward, like, oh, if I don't do it, they'll break up with me, whew, they are not supportive. That's a controlling person. Kick them to the curb, lickety split. You know, that's a drop kick right there. That's a good boundary. Get rid of that person right now.
You know, one other
Yeah.
when you said about the questioning sexuality, it seems to be very, it's wonderful that it's so accepted to question and explore and those things right now, that we're seeing much more of that becoming more mainstream. What I understand though is happening, which so you can tell me how normal this is, and then how you deal with it if you see your child, they'll try it on. Right, and I think this is much more common with girls right now than boys trying on lesbianism. Right?
So you say that when actually we're in a community that has a lot of Latino community, and it's normal in the Latino community for a lot of men to be bisexual and it just not be talked about.
Yeah,
it's pretty standard.
My own experiences with some girls' daughters and close friends where they, and one in particular, she was very sure that her daughter was heterosexual, and her daughter was liked by this, kind of had a girlfriend for her, and she ended up talking to her about it, just saying, you know, don't hurt this girl because she's very serious, she's a lesbian, and I don't think that you are need to be very sensitive to her needs. But how much of that is just normal to you? Just let it go? Could it be? I mean, is it just...
It's high school.
So just let them do whatever.
It's practice time. Be safe in practice. Not like be sex and have sex with everybody, but when it comes to having a relationship and, you know, just dating and such, I mean, it's high school. They hopefully aren't getting that too deep. And that's somebody who, I'm married to my high school sweetheart. You know, I am the exception to the rule, hugely exception to the rule. But it's time to practice and experiment. So telling them what's a healthy way to practice and experiment, but saying to be conscious of the other person's emotions, it's high school. You're supposed to try emotional stuff on, and I wouldn't really go that far. I would just say to be physically safe, because especially when it comes to same sex, and especially girls, they think they can't get anything. They really think that a lot of what they do is perfectly fine and nothing will happen because they're girls and they're clean, and it's boys. Boys have dirty stuff, and boys have, you know, basically a penis as a weapon and that sort of thing. And so girls don't know safe sex. And so teaching them how to be safe, because they don't even really consider it sex because it's not penetration. And so it's teaching them how to be safe when they're exploring and such. Yeah, so I would just do it that way. Yeah, and let them go through it. It's just, it's like how they, you know, one day they're dressing this way and the next day, I like how you say trying it on. That's what they're doing. They're trying it on, and if it doesn't fit, they're gonna move on. And if it does fit, there you go. Yeah, if you make a big deal out of it, they're gonna make a big deal. And then they're gonna have reactive psychology, where just because you told me no, I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna make it work because you told me no. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you see a lot of kids reaching out socially, online, to people they don't know?
Oh yeah.
Why do they do that?
Because if you don't know me but you like me, then that means that you like me for the true me, not because I'm this person's brother or sister, or because we go to the same school, or for something else that might be superficial, or just because you have to like me, or because, yeah, we're all Hamilton Huskies, you like me. You like me when you could have access to the whole world, and you like me. I'm so special, right? So that's how they feel. They feel like they're that one little light in the whole sky that you picked out. And letting them know that's not what it is. It totally isn't. It's completely random. You could, for all you know, they live next door, you know, and that they don't know you. They only know what they see online. It's all superficial. It's all what you happen to say and how you present yourself and how they present themselves. And it's not real life. I mean, they're not there when you fall down. They're not there when you feel bad. They're not there when things really happen. They're there when you feel like opening up, when you feel like connecting. It's just very superficial. Okay. All right, well, looks like we're done. So if you guys have any further questions, you can always call me, contact me through my website, drchelsea.com. I'm happy to answer questions or help people out. If you're looking for a therapist, I'm happy to help you guys find one that works for you, even if it's not me, just because it's like a doctor. You don't know what you're picking, you just sort of go like this. I'm happy to tell you who I know in the area and what might be a good match, okay? I do have my brochures if you want to know more about what I do, but good luck, you know? You can't really mess up as long as you just try. Trying is worth a whole lot. Okay? Thanks.